I don't have my computer.
Doesn't look like it. We don't have.
I don't have.
I don't, there were so many. So I think, where's the one that had all of the recommendations of the voting thing? This one.
Yeah.
So we need this one.
Why do we need that one? Because we're not using those focus things anymore, are we? I don't understand. That's I didn't know.
Are these
Like
not
that?
to do like this? Yeah.
152, I didn't. I'm gonna try it.
No, they are the original.
You guys can
This is
stop
the big-
anytime you guys want to. It's ready,
Okay.
This is group by theme. Okay, oh.
right?
Got it.
We have
You have Jason.
Karen Everett.
What?
Karen Everett.
Online.
In the,
Oh, okay, nice.
Are we starting or are we break, still on break? Oh, is that you? Oh, I'm sorry, here.
see if it's been.
He's happy you have a computer.
No, well, don't.
Anything.
Well, I'll be typing, but I have no idea what I'm typing.
My strategy. No purpose. You did say that she was emailing.
Maybe.
Yes. And then there's a feasibility
So this
table.
stops here then, no? CTC it stops right
The
before
first two
once. This
changes to exam and CTC support.
Okay. No additional funding, scoring.
That's room 2.
Okay, got you. Sure. This is the draft recommendations group by theme. I was just trying to figure out where this room is headed. Oh, this one ends right of additional funding here for our stop.
Yes, it looks. Yeah, that looks like a lot
Should we
of
just do the exam?
recommendations. Just right away.
This thing.
Yeah, you'd have to
Five,
label
six,
it.
seven recommendations in this.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find those on this feasible thing.
The first 7,
I need that one as well.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
I have to label them.
Oh, here we go. This thing.
That's the original.
This document is supposed to be what? What is it?
The feasibility of each of the recommendations.
All of them?
Yep.
As according to who?
The missions that don't have.
Oh, I see.
It's an idea of like what would it take for us to implement that recommendation.
I see. Okay.
Then when did she send out the slides already?
She said she did. Does anyone have my email?
That's, you know.
from there.
Yeah.
Are we at start time?
I think anytime now.
And the goal is to develop final recommendations that are focused, streamlined, directly actionable. Guiding questions, do the recommendations have the same intent? Could recommendations be merged without losing clarity? Is one recommendation a more detailed version of another? So those seems like consolidating questions. Changes to exam recommendations are the first 4 bullets.
And our group is changing to exams
And
and
it's the
support,
CTC supports per program.
just those two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone like some consolidation protocol for the first 4? I guess.
Are you looking at this one? Is that where you're saying the first 4 or the first 4?
But these are the same.
They are.
So the first 4 bullets for changes to exam,
Okay.
I'm kind of looking at,
I kind of like looking at these at both at the same time because this will tell you feasibility, what the CTC perceives as a feasibility of the recommendations that were made. And that might be helpful to see.
Well, the first 3 bullets already were revisions, so then that would be harder, like even if that requires like a full read, like redoing it basically.
Yeah.
I would say like bullet 1 is just like
A lot of
the
these.
format or structure of the exam, right? Reducing the pages, streamlining it. Bullet 2 is just like the whole like philosophy or context of what the exam should incorporate. And then to me, 3 and 4 are just like ensuring that the test has, I don't want to say alternative, but other methods for assessment, not just a written commentary.
These all appear to have revision and funds attached to them, the first 4 at least.
Revision of the performance assessment design standards. How long would that take in order for these to be?
okay, you guys are looking at the feasibility for what's the
changes for the
objective?
exam?
I just curiosity to see what.
Well, then it'd be a priority. If you're gonna talk about priorities tomorrow, kind of forward thinking to that. Like if if all 4 of these are feasibility issues of revision, then why can't we make that a priority? Eat the biggest, ugliest frog, right? Like, that's a big task.
Yeah.
And the interim actions have helped in the interim, but bigger picture, what does it look like?
I was mainly curious about if there what. If there were any of these bullets that were feasibly like, let's go ahead and do this right now kind of thing, but there are not, so. That now means that, what you just said, which is, this is gonna need to. Any of these.
I do know that they have already, they've already made some changes to the actual TPA that were not necessarily part of our recommendations. So for example, the number of pages have already been reduced in some of the narrative documents. So I know that's already been done.
The number of pages in the handbooks.
The Cal TPA for the student.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what Juliet is wanting us to do in this session. That was review and then consolidate.
I think bullet 1 and maybe bullet 3 might be good bullets to maybe look at consolidation.
Do folks want to just take a look at it?
And if it's helpful, either someone who's already on Zoom or someone in the room can join Zoom and share your screen, so you can, if it's helpful to have it on the screen, especially for our virtual friends.
I see the real world teaching scenarios also aligning with bullet 4.
I wonder, like bullet 2, I think bullet 2 is fine by itself, but I like the format if we can do like one recommendation, because again, I think this is all to the structure. So once like reducing pages, multiple modalities, and then for bullet 4, I took out like the second sentence as the case of secondary passing rate, because I think that's something different that I think they've addressed, but that it be broken up into multiple segments. So if we can say something like these 1, 3, and the top 4 can be into one. One recommendation is basically the structure of the exam.
So you're saying condense bullet point 1, 2, 3, and 4.
1,
into
3, and 4. 1, 3 in the top of 4, because with 4 I cut out, or I have at the sentence as the case with secondary passing rate coursework that is assigned and evaluated by faculty should be used for TPA. I just kind of took that out because I thought that was addressed already.
So, reduce number 4. Because
Just split it. We don't have to
Somewhere
reduce it,
else.
just split it in half, yeah. So that the multiple segments.
I
I think that's a different.
Yeah, I would like to maybe talk a little bit about number 4, because I think the intention is to break up the tasks so the assignments are a part of coursework, and that way, if they don't pass, then you can use the coursework and
As a
then,
secondary passing rate.
right, as an evaluative,
Okay.
right? So I wonder,
Maybe just put that, maybe that make it that the focus. Because when I see multiple segments, I just think of structure. You're structuring in a different way, so that's easier to complete, not tied to. I mean, of course, ideally, it's aligned to coursework, but not for the, I mean, yes, for the TPA, but not maybe used to help practice for the TPA, but not for the TPA.
well, and I think they're recommending it being the TPA.
It being it.
I think, if
I
that's
don't,
what,
I don't remember this.
so the TPA be broken into multiple segments. With TPE specified.
That are
and
contained with
within
existing coursework and reflecting program standards.
So if I'm a faculty member and I have a course, one of the pieces of the TPA will be an assignment in my class. That's how I'm reading this.
Yes.
Okay.
And then that way, let's say it doesn't pass, they're gonna come back to me and I'm gonna say, yes, it does, because they did it in my coursework, or there's enough evidence for them to qualify for the secondary pass. Right, I
see.
think.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, though, when we talk through it that way, then yeah, the number 4 would be separate.
Would that then go into program practices?
Okay, I mean, it technically is a change to the exam, but it is an alignment.
I think what's tricky about that one for me is, like, are we saying that we're not gonna have a summative performance assessment? And if we're agreeing on that, then that has implications, but if we're, like, if we pull it apart in this way, I'm not saying we shouldn't, I just, it's sort of like, are we saying that we don't want that anymore?
I spent a long while talking to Ira, who's on the commission, and on the way here, we were talking for about an hour, and that's one of the things that we were talking about is it's still unclear. Local scoring, okay? Local scoring of what? The new one or the old one?
Yeah.
Are we getting rid of, are we really saying that we're breaking up? We're breaking it up so much that actually it no longer exists in the form that we even thought of it as. And we're not using outside sponsors to really provide that. We're just breaking it up and doing it within our own work. And I don't know where we are with that. I don't know where we're recommending as far as that's concerned. That which would be a whole new, in my view, would be a whole new thing, right? And then it has to be local scoring. If you do it that way, then you don't even need something that says local scoring because it's part of coursework. And of course, that's locally scored. But then what we're saying is you actually lose the, what's the word? The legitimacy of why it was brought in the first place, right? So I don't know where I don't know where we are really.
Yeah, that's my question, because it has really big implications.
It does.
And I don't even know if I have enough knowledge or if we've talked about it enough for me to have a clear opinion on where I would stand on that, but
we're also satisfying two very different processes because Cal TPA is sort of broken up. Ed TPA, by definition, that was the main difference. The main thing that they wanted to contain was it was a whole process of delivery, of planning, delivery, and assessing student learning of the same work, exactly the same. And that was the argument against Cal TPA. And Cal TPA's argument was, well, teachers do this all the time, and it's, you know, and it's less stress on them because they've got it in parts. So I don't know what this that one particularly says.
Number 4.
yeah.
And I'm also, I mean, I don't believe I was one of the ones who just put what's the one about less pages? That's not an issue. In fact, some of our candidates and lots of candidates, particularly English language arts, who can't write concisely,
Well, that's what to say.
they have a big problem. They have a big problem with it's not the number of pages in what they're submitting; it's the number of pages in the guidance and how much guidance and, you know, the constraints that they're under all the time with doing it. I mean, I as an English teacher, you don't really like constraining people's writing, do you? Exactly. I know. It's like, you know, the amount of ones I have to say that 10 pages, you go over it, they're not going to read the rest of it. And they go, but I've got to say this and this.
But what's helpful, I mean, usually when I encounter those candidates, it's not a difference between their passing. Like the concise language is the same as the expanded version.
Yeah, I don't think that reducing the number of pages they're allowed to submit is going to help anybody. I don't think so. I don't think it makes it less onerous. Or am I wrong? I don't know.
I've never taken it, so I know with National Board, we the whole purpose of a page max is so that you get your point across.
Yeah.
You learn to write concisely, convincing.
Yeah, it's not in support of the candidates, is it? It's not done to help the candidates. It's to force them to do it. Yes.
Why did I do it? What did I do?
To the essence of what happened.
That's how the student benefited, and take out all the fluffy stuff. Like it's just straight to the point. Let's get to it.
But and I think at National Board, that's absolutely right, that you should be able to, as a National Board teacher, be able to pick out the essence of what you want to say and make sure that's down. I think that reducing the number of pages for some candidates is an extra hurdle.
But I've heard from teachers in the field or candidates in the field who shared, like, I wrote 100 or I wrote 150, maybe 150. I don't know if that's true or not. I wrote all these pages and I felt I got nowhere. I just did it just to do it because I needed to do it to pass it. So, and again, this was a mild moderate candidate. So it's like, why she feels it didn't benefit her. That's not the purpose of this exam. The purpose is to help her gain a better understanding of what her teaching practice is at that moment, or could be in the future.
The essence of this, like the reason that this is here is for reducing the amount of time that a candidate spends?
Mhm.
Is it for accessibility?
Well, I'm looking, are you just looking at number one?
Yeah, I'm just looking.
Yeah,
at
and I don't know, I'm hung up on the lack of specificity or clarity.
Mhm.
So in this particular recommendation, okay, we have specific, reducing the number of pages submitted. Well, I mean, what does that really mean? Streamlining rubric and structure. What specifically are we trying to say? Eliminating duplicate activity. What are the duplicate activities that we're trying to? So, I mean, there's just a lot of very general statements here that I think need more
Well, maybe
clarification.
that's the focus statement is it demonstrates their competencies without navigating unnecessary complexity. So that last sentence in that bullet one, that's what the whole point of everything above is to have candidates not experience that unnecessary complexity, whatever that is. I guess if it is reducing pages
What is
or
that?
not understanding the rubric or how it aligns or.
Which I think is, I mean, whether it's 2 or 10 pages, we want the product to be able to demonstrate the learning, right? Because some of those pages are lesson plans, which is very different than commentary. And so I just, like, it should be appropriate to the thing that we're asking. I would think.
Yeah, for example, a good example is actually like the lesson plans. There's a limit on the lesson plan number of pages in TPA. It's 4 pages per lesson plan. So if you've got 3 lessons that you're teaching, 3 1-hour lessons that you're teaching, which is the minimum, then you can have 15 pages, 12 pages of lesson plans. But we have to find, in some of our departments like world languages, they have a particular lesson plan, and many of them are longer than that. And they have to then, it's another hurdle that they have to like reduce their usual lesson plans that their supervisors are asking for and that their CNI instructors are asking for. They have to reduce those so it fits into the model. The other thing is like materials. There's a limit on the amount of materials they're allowed to send in. Why? I don't know. I've got no understanding of why they would limit that. So we're then in a situation of students finding ways to get 20 slides onto 1 page so that they have got, so it comes in under the 5 pages of 5 pages of materials that they've got.
But it's different with the Cal TPA, it's different because that whole section is optional. I've had candidates submit and not submit any resources and materials and still pass.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
Oh,
that
how
whole
do
section.
people score that then without knowing what?
Well, I mean, they look at the lesson plan, they look at the lesson plan rationale, all the documents that they submit going.
But not necessarily.
They can state on their lesson plan what resources they're using, but they don't have to. It's not a.
They don't have to include it.
Right.
Okay. Oh, they do it at TPA.
Yeah, National Board too. Like I was just thinking that you have, and it's only 4 pages, so you have to, again, going back to, you have to pick the evidence that you feel or sample product you feel is going to best highlight what that lesson was about for that student that you had in, like your focus student. So you can't just put everything in there. 20, I mean, it has to be readable too. It can't just be
Yeah, it can't be that,
like.
like, because when you put 20 slides on 1 page, you can't read it anyway.
To how you're instructing candidates to complete the material, because it's all very straightforward. Like I instruct my candidates, get to the point. You don't have to labor, you don't have to provide a lot of all this other fluff information. What is the prompt asking? What are you supposed to state in the prompt? Get to the point. And they do that very briefly. I even created sentence frames for them. Say, this paragraph, if you address it the way this is structured, that's all you need to do. And I mean, they've been successful in doing that. So, that's why I'm kind of stuck with limiting the number of pages. Like, what does that mean? What section, what part, what are the, I don't know. So now that I'm looking at this recommendation, I'm like, is it even applicable?
Yeah.
What are we really trying to say with this particular one? And it seems so.
The thing that sticks out to me about, I agree with you, Devin. I think the thing that sticks out to me is that number 2 seems like, bullet 2 seems like it's a pretty solid recommendation. It has very little implications with visibility and, just things about feasibility versus number, what is it, 4? Number 4 has a lot of feasibility comments on it, like tons. But I'm thinking about, like, is there a way to maybe think about now combining bullet 1, bullet 3? Well, I don't even know if we need bullet 3 because on the feasibility thing, it says you already have opportunities to submit in multiple abilities. But the thing that sticks out to me about number 1 is this real world teaching scenarios, and I'm wondering that could just that piece could be inserted into bullet number 2, especially like it's talking about lessons.
Help me understand what do you think that means?
I've got no idea what that means.
What, like, what, why,
Yeah.
why is it real world teaching scenarios? I mean, it's supposed to be
Yeah.
It's supposed to be their teaching.
Right, so what-
Exactly.
If it's a scenario, it's no longer a performance assessment
Right.
in that sense. It's not their performance in the assessment.
Yeah,
So that,
yeah.
that statement.
So I don't really understand.
That's why I said I'm not liking 1 at all.
I hear you. Yeah, I think that was probably potentially the the intention of that, like
I think it was,
teachers want to, they want to be, demonstrate their competencies on what they're doing in the classroom every day versus, having a prompt that they need to write up on. So
I can't help but think of like the feedback I've got from candidates who say it was a waste of time. Like, okay, well, what made it a waste of time? And it just wasn't realistic to what I was doing in the classroom. So maybe that's where that phrase comes from.
yeah,
Like, well, what does that
Why wasn't
mean?
it?
Yeah,
That would be my
Because-
question.
yeah,
Why
because
wasn't it real?
my students weren't functioning. I tried. And again, because I've never taken it, I don't really know. I heard it's 5 lessons. And I don't really know which one our school district uses. It's 5 lessons. And like I said, for 2 candidates, 1 GE teacher and 1 mild mod, she says I just made stuff up. Like I did it and I did the prompts, but it wasn't meaningful to me. I couldn't use anything from my classroom because we weren't working on those things or, it just wasn't relevant to my student population. So.
Well, I will say maybe that, like, I could see like the possibility of the prompts for the kinds of work that the assessment is asking for, maybe being misaligned to what the candidates are working on in that particular part of the academic year. I could see that, right? Like, I know for English, I think the prompt, it's been a while since I looked at it, but it had to do with a discussion. Maybe they're not discussing that day, but I kind of need a discussion today, so I'm gonna like either.
The GE teacher was a 5th grade teacher, GE, and the mild mod was like a co-teach teacher in high school.
Yeah, so
Which is a lot different. They're not, they are co-teach, but it's just hard to explain. But co-teach model is just confusing in general, based on who you go to, where you go to, and.
so needing like more flexibility in how they demonstrate.
Yeah, and I don't know, so is it fixed in some of these assessments in the CalT, like,
What do you mean?
like fixed, like it's the same question for everybody?
Yeah,
Yeah, but
depending on your content area, it's
Okay.
different.
they're general to it.
So general, so they could be flexible, so I wonder if it just goes back to like the understanding of how to complete the assessment, like. You have to do this because that's what they told me and you have to follow them. And again, some people I know we're all very rule oriented. It's like, we have to follow the rule. We have to do it this way or we're going to fail and my whole life's going to end. Right. And so it's hard to kind of build that flexibility, especially when it's high stakes like this for new teacher or for teacher candidates.
Yeah, I agree, and it's a good example of one of them where these strictures that are in the handbooks and the expectations and the rubrics really work against our candidates. So, for example, in English, they have to look at a complex text. Now, a complex text is defined as lots of themes, like it can be movie, it could be poetry, it could be a novel, could be whatever you want as context text. But we had to really find out whether this one worked because she's doing an argumentative essay, and the complex text they're basing this on is the student's own one that they did prior to this segment. So she's using their own text as a complex text because this her mentor teacher, that's where they are in this process, and this was the only time she could do it. So she's not using an external test. So I freaked out and went to Sarah Levine and asked all sorts of people, can it be seen as a complex text? And they were all going, oh, I don't know
Yeah, that's a new question.
whether a student's work can be seen as a complex text. And they all said, we think it can.
Mhm.
So anyway, she's put it in. So we'll see whether someone thinks that the student's own work is actually an example of a complex text or not.
So, well, maybe that's what.
But there needs to be that flexibility in what they're doing so it can fit within
In
their
their
classroom.
Now, TPA, it doesn't have that specific requirement, like you
Right.
must use a complex, it's just teach a lesson.
Mhm.
You know, of course, cycle 1 needs to be math focused, cycle 2 needs to be literacy focused, and it's just whatever you're teaching. Now you're developing all this information related around what you're teaching, which is that's why I'm kind of struggling with some of the.
The issues that we're raising.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I don't see them.
Yeah. And is that better? I mean, or is it harder for candidates? Like, I don't know, what do you want me to do?
No, I go in and I tell them, teach whatever you're scheduled to teach.
Mm.
Okay, these are the requirements. You need to show that you're creating a positive and safe, caring learning environment. You need to demonstrate that you know how to incorporate informal assessments. You need to, do these things. I mean, the basics of teaching. You video record that. You got your clips of that, and the rest of it can be you're writing it up. I mean, so it's not something that's new and foreign that they have to do for the TPA. It's something that and I tell them, if you spent any time in the classroom, you've already done what you need to do for the TPAs. I mean, we just have to now write it up this way using these
It's the
documents.
same for national board candidates. They're like, I'm like, tell me what you did. Well, like, that's it. Write it up. You just told me what you did, and that's what you're gonna write to submit to national board.
Yeah, and I think through the process, they overthink, they overcomplicate it, and they stress themselves out, which is why they don't do well. But having that time to just say, it's simple, it's what you already know how to do.
Mhm.
It's what you've been doing in the classroom all this time, whether it's been a year, 2 years, whether you replaced, 3 months ago, it's the same thing. And you just go in, you teach and do what you know how to do and you write it up.
So for science, they don't have to do like an experiment with data and analyze data with the students,
It's
and
not that specific.
it's not that specific. See, it is in a TPA. There's for maths, it's a crazy. They've got to do all 3 things with, what is it? A conceptual,
Yeah, procedural, conceptual, and then like even into the
problem solving.
problem solving.
Yeah, all 3 have to be within those 3 lessons. So,
And language
Then there's
functions
like a
as well.
language teachers it's awful, even more. And functions, yeah.
They're still on that screen.
Just like.
Well, it sounds like the intention here is something about accessibility and understanding. So like with the instructions and all that, it's getting candidates caught up in all of that and they're not able to function or focus on actually demonstrating what they know. So there's something about making the process more transparent, accessible, and comprehensible to the taker, right? I think there's that.
Which is similar to the 3rd bullet, I think, as well, which they've already said
They
that.
had.
They say that I have.
I think, I'm pretty sure that was one of my recommendations. Cause there's some really big on like just making sure candidates know, well, it's like they have it, but do they know they have it? Cause sometimes they're like, I didn't know I can do that. I didn't know, like, I can, record my response and not have to do.
Can this?
response.
Well, TPA, it's only on certain sections. You can't do it for everything. So there's a section like the reflection piece, there's a reflection document. They can verbally explain what they're doing, but for the other documents, that's not an option. I mean, I don't know how it would.
It's not for a TPA.
But I wonder if, no.
Oh, I was just saying that it would be helpful. I was watching someone actually talk through their TPA, like real time and struggling with it. Like it would be helpful if there were actual examples in the prompts, just any common misconception that candidates tend to do. If you put the rubric right there in the prompt, so then I have to go to a separate document, or have an example like.
Mhm.
She was confused on when they're asking for the objective, right? She was like, do I put all of my standards that I'm teaching, or am I just putting like a quick little blurb about the objective of the lesson? And so those little things that where candidates maybe have some misconceptions, if they were just like another sub instruction or the rubric embedded within the tool versus looking at a separate document, I think can help. If she was just like, I don't feel like I know if what I put is going to be good enough. And so then has that overthinking. So you can just put it in there.
Yeah.
Like, this is an example. Here's a rubric. Like, oh, okay. And then it calmed her down.
That
Why
also
was she not looking
speaks
at
to
the rubric?
accessibility too. I don't, you know, having like if your thoughts about having the rubric just right there accessible within the test or the TPA. Like you don't have, yeah, that speaks to accessibility too, that people don't have to go searching off into these multiple handbooks, rubrics, whatever to answer the
That
question.
could be easily done now. I mean, I think when they were written,
It's kind of like Google.
that wasn't really, that wasn't as easily done, that put in live links. I mean, to put live links, because they're all using their laptops or whatever it is to read their handbook. So there should be live links to the TPE within that, with examples, with all of the other stuff, because there is another book, another booklet, but it's thicker than their own handbook, which is making good choices, which helps them to make choices about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. But they tend not to go to that, right? Because you've already given me this 70-page handbook. You want me to open up another one with 100 pages in it to tell me what to do?
And that's another one of the things that I know the CTC has made a change for the Cal TPA is in their handbook, in the assessment guides, what they call it. They have embedded.
They have embedded
At the end of each section. Before it was just like all the rubrics here at the bottom, and you have to just kind of. Now it's section by section. So as you're working through it, if you're working through the handbook, it's right there for you. And
they could link, a level 3, they could link to an example that, here's an example of what a level 3 would look like or whatever for that one rubric or something.
Asking for too much there.
But it could be about just standardizing what then is happening across the board so that it becomes a requirement for all the assessments, right? Like if that change has been made, there's apparently some problem that it's addressing, but it's not required of all the TPAs. And so maybe that's
that consistency and the TPAs are expecting.
So it could be a matter of that.
What you're referring to, I just took it upon myself to collect that information on my own.
All right.
Candidates that score exceptionally well, I ask them for their materials and I use that as exemplars because the exemplars that they provide are not exemplars.
Each of our content areas has an example, and I deliberately didn't do an exemplar. I did an example because some of them would freak out. If I gave them the very best one that's ever been done, they'd look at it and go, I can never do that. I choose like one that's just a standard three all the way through. They just passed everything, and they've all got access to that, and that's helpful. But again, the students who need to look at it, the ones that are struggling with anxiety over all of this, that they don't even look at the example. The number of times I've sat down and said, have you looked at the example from 2 years ago by what's her name? Do you even know her? They go, yeah, it's her example. No, I haven't looked at it. I said, why did I put it in the folder then? Why did I put that in your folder if you're not even going to look at it to get the ideas of what you need to do? And it's because they're so anxious about the whole process.
So how do we transfer all this discussion into what we're supposed to do now?
I have here that you guys want to, or that we want to somehow combine 1 and 3, but we need to condense it and just focus on specific
Well,
ads
they
that we
said
would
three's
want to
already
have
been addressed,
to-
unless you want to clarify.
You said 3's been addressed?
That's what they said in the
Well, I'm not sure.
usability. Or do you want to expand
I
it?
think it's the lack of specificity here because currently candidates do complete components of the TPA using multiple modalities, but I don't know if we want to be specific in saying a particular piece of evidentiary work should be completed. Because they do have an option, they do have that option.
It's just
Does
hard
anyone
because
have
there's so
thoughts?
many different,
Right,
there's
so-
different kinds or different content areas, right?
I think what I'm would want is for the assessments to be sort of analyzed for UDL. Like, that's what I'm more sort of thinking about. Like, I don't know which one should be what thing, but can we go through the assessments and say, are there multiple means of representation? Are there multiple, like, just to make sure that it is accessible by all kinds of learners? And I think that's the question. I don't know the specificities of each of the exams to be able to say which parts, but I do think some sort of analysis so that people can access.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because it's a requirement for the candidate.
It
to
is.
Demonstrate UDL.
It is for the candidate.
The actual assessment
itself.
Take that into consideration, right?
Could I jump in?
Oh, yes, please.
I think that's a great example, Shayna, and also with respect to the feasibility, just because the current Cal TPA and Ed TPA do offer multiple modalities, doesn't mean that it shouldn't also be in the design standards. So anything coming out in future, but I also like that suggestion of the UDL that whoever is approving, current or future, should do an analysis for UDL both for how a candidate can access the instructions and the knowledge about what they're supposed to do, but also so that they can demonstrate in multiple ways what they know and can do.
I agree.
So can that analysis be a recommendation that would sort of span those two? Like, it could be, right, like,
Yeah.
some sort of analysis for UDL. That would be.
I think so.
Okay.
And so,
Three.
Yeah, because it would be both for the, like Tina said, the access to the structure of the exam, but also their ability to demonstrate in multiple ways.
I know we talked about that before, but I don't
Mhm.
remember where and when. Cause that did come up in
Yeah.
a few sessions.
and somehow it needs to be got across to people like myself and you that are supporting candidates. I mean, I was told for the first time this year, or you gave really clear written instructions on submission and uploading and all the transfer to Pearson and all of that. Can you not do a video for us on that? And I thought, oh, yeah, why haven't I done a video on that? Why does it have to be a long list of steps that you have to go through on a piece of paper?
Mhm.
So next year I'm going to do a video for them. So
Mhm.
I know I'm slow getting to the table. I know, don't shake your head at me, Jason. I know it was bad. I felt embarrassed by my students.
Put timestamps, that way they know exactly where they need to go to listen again to the.
So I will be doing that for next year. You do the same?
I do. I mean, part of,
Right.
so I was able to get a grant in which part of my job is to create professional development videos for supervisors, for mentors, and for candidates. And so all that stuff that keeps getting repeated, I just have videos for them.
You have videos for
So
me.
he has your video already.
We have a canvas.
You don't even have to
You
do
need to
that.
send me. I'm going to use yours. Except this is Cal TPA, which is really screw them up. Really screw them up. Therefore, we showed them that video.
Maybe,
We want to go to,
some wording, or do we want wording for
I think
that?
we have to restructure it, yeah.
Here's
Come up
a
with-
stab at it, yeah.
Oh, staff, it's so violent now.
Here's a draft of it. The RDI TPA work group recommends analysis of the TPA for aspects of UDL, for example, live links to rubrics embedded in TPA and options for using multiple modalities to demonstrate learning,
Mhm.
which they will be like, they already have multiple modalities to demonstrate learning. But here is some proposed.
Mhm. But that isn't the case throughout the exam.
Yeah,
Right,
well, it
so.
depends on which,
On
it
which
also
one, yeah.
depends on which exam, but I think
We'll put those modalities across what, I don't know. Content area, I don't even know what the certificate areas.
TPAs.
Yeah.
Across what segments? Sure, yeah.
Well, I know too, like audio, a lot of I know when I had to do a video that's 3 minutes, I had to write something out and I had to, because you're timed, so you have to make sure like you meet that time. And I know sometimes people think, oh, audio is easy because I just get to talk about it. But it's more than talking about it. You really have to think about what you're saying because you only have a certain amount of time to say it in. So that's what I think
That's
a lot
why
of
they
people
go to Devin. Devin gets them on track.
That's right.
Yeah, so it looks like, good job, I think we've maybe combined, we have
What
one
about
last
number
one.
4? What about number 4? Did you want to rewrite number 4?
Did we finish number one?
The part of number one that we didn't address is that idea of real world teaching scenarios and the conversation we started to have about like multiple possible sort of topics of teaching during the, like what sort of aligns with the scope and sequence of learning for the year, whereas EdTPA seems a little more restricted, but CalTPA has more flexibility. So I wonder if the stringentness of the EdTPA would not lend itself to authentic assessment as much as CalTPA currently in this current iteration would.
It's a real world, maybe even authentic teaching scenarios, because like teaching things in the moment, not having, I don't know, I know there's some question on what does real world mean. Moments, teaching moments.
Yeah, I mean, I
Applicable
have
teaching
I have
moments.
real problems with that the wording of that. I mean, it doesn't fit. It has to be real world if it's a performance
Yes.
assessment.
No, I think it was to kind of prevent candidates from kind of making things up because it's not really fitting what they're actually doing in the classroom, like their actual real context. I think somehow
So it's not a scenario
I
in the
think that
sense.
got put in later while people were trying to piece everything
Okay.
together.
I think that's, I think
They're like,
that's
this is not what I'm really doing.
the feedback
Mm.
that candidates give sometimes when they're talking about, oh, we just all got together and did a TPA party and wrote together, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, so like, you know, and I think 1 in 4
TPA. That,
connections to this, right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, just this whole idea of that's why I'm struggling with it because it's just I don't understand how it's not a real authentic lesson that they're doing. I mean, I don't understand that.
No, I don't
That's what I'm
understand
struggling
what has to be said because it has to be real, doesn't it?
with. That's what I thought.
The word scenario makes me think that someone's written something that is, based on the real world, right? That's what that expression means to me is when you give someone, like we do scenarios and I'm teaching about working with parents and difficult parent interviews. We do scenarios which are based on, but they're not real. Right? I mean,
I think they mean like situations.
Yeah.
Like I don't think they're using I don't think, if I remember way back, I don't think that word is.
you don't think it means that,
I don't think it means scenario
I'm
in the
saying.
way that, but I
Okay.
understand what you're saying.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think 1 in 4 are connected in this idea of like what you're saying is, and again, I don't know how I feel about either of these, but like the part of the coursework being able to be part of a TPA submission. I think there's something connected between those two of like, I want to be doing, like, if I'm thinking about in the mind of a teacher, I want to be doing my real world authentic teaching in the moment. And then I want to also be submitting that to the TPA at the same time. However, there's like something within the TPA that's like making some candidates feel like they have to, either the timing's not right and they have to write about something they did like, back in the first semester or second semester, or they're or different universities have different ways to approach the support of writing TPA stuff. So, some universities give a lot of support and some universities are like, good luck, kid.
Yeah, one of our teachers that we mentor, she had she was taught like how to do a lesson beforehand and get her context and then deliver like during her program. But when it came to a TPA, she's talking everything in past tense, like that first task or ed TPA. She's talking about everything in past tense, not realizing, oh, I was supposed to do this before I did my lesson. So now I have to like think back to what did I do before this lesson started. You're doing the context of the background, which is supposed to happen before your lesson, after you've already did your lesson and assessment. And so now they're just backtracking, trying to fill in
That may be a part of
previous tasks.
candidates feeling the
That's a-
duplicative nature of
Her
stuff.
program is like,
Program
we,
problem.
their program says, I was thankful for that. One of the things they said how your programs can help. But their program believes they can't help at all. They gave them all the handbooks, like all they told her all we can do is give you the handbook, and you're on your own.
So
So
how
you
does
know,
that,
videos explaining and breaking down, or exemplars, like all the things that were listed on what you can do. Some programs don't think they can.
right, so that's a
do that.
program issue. So how do we?
Well, it was
address
actually in the
that?
guidance for EdTPA. It's very, very strict about all sorts of things. It much stricter than some people will implement and less strict than others. So, you know, I mean, so for example, we never allowed supervisors to go and visit their classroom while the student was doing their EdTPA. I've got no understanding why. That's another thing down to me. Wow, I'm bad at my job. You know, I just thought that it didn't make sense because they're supposed to be reflecting on their own. They're supposed to be doing all of this sort of thing. And if there's supervisors in there, it makes it a whole different process. But there's nowhere that says a supervisor can't visit and talk about the lesson that you just taught, whether it's for EdTPA or not.
15 minutes.
So, you know, I mean, that really did. But I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to work out that. I think it's really important, this real world teaching scenarios piece, right? What we're trying to do is come up with words that satisfy what you're saying. It has to be like in real time, part of their day-to-day teaching. It's an actual teaching experience for them. It's just, I think that there needs to be something like that in there, but not the words real world scenario. Because
And I don't even know if, well, help me understand why that even needs to be addressed because it just seems, it makes sense. It's part of the TPA. That's what the TPA is.
to stop them feeling that they've got to do something special. That's what it's about.
Somewhere in the
The wording is what
in
you
the
said.
communications,
Yeah,
candidates are feeling like I got to make something.
this should be your normal, this should be part and parcel of your normal process of teaching. And at the time of year when you're doing this, it should be what normally would be happening. I mean, something like that needs to be clear that it isn't something that you're special or, you know, you've got to organize. I mean, ours try to reorganize their whole,
everything
the whole school, you know, the whole school's curriculum gets reorganized so that one student can take their EdTPA on this topic at this time because it matches what's required in the handbook. You know, and we hear it all the time that they turn around and say, oh, I can't do my EdTPA then because we're not doing something. That, you know, and I need to be able to do that, right? And
I mean,
but I don't know how to word that instead of that. What's there?
maybe we just kind of eliminate that and leave it up to the program support. Are we on or no, we don't have program support. CTC supports for programs with our next thing we haven't even touched yet, but like maybe that is a piece that we put in to say, you know, CTC needs to support programs in understanding the supports for candidates, the timing, the authenticity of the TPA or something like that. Because candidates shouldn't have to feel like they need to have TPA writing parties. And I think that's just in part due to like different university supports, really.
Okay.
And I
So
have
that
a really
means-
quick question for you,
What's that here?
university people. So going back to bullet number 4, can a student complete a coursework in a class and then submit that to TPA as part of the coursework requirement and a TPA requirement? Does that currently happen?
Say that again. So, well,
No, say that
Go
again.
on.
Yeah, if you are coursework, have a class, we're gonna do this assignment. It's your signature assignment. It's the one that happens at the end of the year. And it's a TPA component or TPA requirement. Can they submit that assignment done in class to TPA to have that as a TPA?
Let's do.
Yeah.
Only for the lesson planning piece.
Okay, so there's only one section that they
Yeah,
can
I
do
mean,
that
you
in.
couldn't,
the other ones
yeah,
have to be done in real time, kind of.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean,
yeah, they often do that. Although our faculty often turn around and say, I can't give you feedback on it though.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
until after, because then, then I'm making it more my lesson than yours.
you can give feedback, you just can't tell them what to write.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't tell them the answer.
Right.
But you can say, you need to do something more to get them engaged in at the beginning of the class.
Exactly.
And then if they don't pass a component on the TPA on the TPA, can they do that lesson again to resubmit it? And so like with National Board, if you don't pass like component 2, that lesson that you did for component 2 that you did not pass, you cannot do that lesson again. You cannot rewrite that submission.
Cal TPA
you have-
depends
okay.
on
What it is.
where they were deficient. So if they're in their lesson plan and the rubric, if they scored high, they can use the same lesson plan and just revise other parts of
The
the
instruction.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't have to start all over again.
Right.
Yeah.
So, or if their video
But
recorded lesson clips were horrible, then they're gonna have to record a new video lesson.
Or if the lesson plans are bad, then that goes all the way through. And normally if they
Just
fail
fits
that, then everything else doesn't work out.
Okay.
Because
I'm
it's,
just curious, yeah, because I know like for number 4, breaking up, I think we were talking earlier about the multiple segments. So yes, sir.
Can we make 2 recommendations? The first one would essentially just be the second one there.
you mean, sorry, Jason, the first one will be the second one?
Second bullet
Second
point.
bullet.
Oh, right, okay.
Sounds like it's pretty
Recommendation
solid.
1.
Mhm.
And the recommendation 2 is the requirement for analysis for UDL in structure and multiple
Modalities.
modalities,
to demonstrate
such
efficacy.
as but not limited to, and then we pull out the specific bullets from 1, 3, and 4 that we think are ready to go.
That's nice. But I also think we should add your idea about embedding the
The
rubrics inside the exam, because that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That's like Google Help. I use that all the time. How do I do a page break?
Do college application, you had a little I button there.
Right.
Click on it and it actually explains the instructions. I've read some of the instructions. It is sometimes unclear.
No, you're absolutely right. And so, I mean, that link could take them to the making good choices. You know, if you don't understand how to do this, you know, boom.
Is that more reading? I'm talking about a little sentence.
You want a video?
word
You want me
that
to do a
just
video? for
Points
that?
me in the right
Video.
direction.
Okay.
So like, okay,
This is
because
cool.
I feel like we know enough about common misconceptions. I mean, if we've done any type of analysis, thinking of where, because as a teacher, that's what I do. I anticipate errors or directions that they would go, and I will put in a sub. I have my instruction, then I have a sub direction. Just to make sure to clarify, like, this is where I want you to go. Don't go over here, don't go over there. You still have to do the thing. But why make it a mystery of like where I want you to go? And if you're not sure, here's a rubric. Boom, I can see a simple rubric, not I don't know what the making good choices. Is that another handbook?
It is another.
I have two wonderings.
But it could be just a paragraph, you're right. It links to a paragraph.
I know we're running limited on time. One is action of bullet 4, which feels like a conversation that maybe we can't have here in the amount of time we have. So that feels big to me.
Table, so I'm with you.
And then for bullet number 2 that we're saying might become bullet number 1. I am like 100% behind this. And I wonder about feasibility, and I wonder about our current political landscape and the ways in which this may be discounted or not sort of received. And so I'm just thinking about how, like, is this what we want to say?
We feel like there might be some tweaks in it.
Culturally responsive pedagogy, I mean, just.
Equity focused pedagogy.
And then with the,
Disaggregated
Can you
data by.
say that again? Record it and post it.
this is, it's public, it's already out there.
It's out there, so
We have the components listed. Does that add some more?
I don't know, I just want to open it up for conversation and not ignore it, because I don't know. We partner with like 50+ districts across the state of California. And just sort of thinking about the complexities of what we're sitting in at the moment, and just, I would love to like make sure that we feel aligned around that. So that's my only question, and
Like they'll stop reading after that.
and I want to make sure it happens, right? So like this needs to happen. And if there's a way to think about it so that it will happen, not be removed.
Yeah.
I just.
That's a tough one, because as educators, we don't see it. I mean, some of us see it through a political lens, but
Mhm.
most of it's like for our students, like we really look at it from a student focused. But
Mhm.
we are.
TPA actually does all of the last one. It does the sub-bullets in the middle. It does those. It actually has that in the handbook as a requirement for their lesson plans have to reflect that.
Mhm.
They don't use the words culturally responsive and sustainable because they're out of date. Basically. And they don't require how they disaggregate, but they could do quite easily.
I want to go back to the feasibility pieces. If you take a look at number 2, there's only two feasibility things, which is the
They
same.
have to revise the
Well, the big ones, it has to be revised.
The performance assessment design standards adopted by the commission. Well, basically what I'm trying to think about is like there wasn't comments like there are on number 3, number 4. There's no comments about that, which I think, is kind of an encouraging sign, I think. If they're putting it forward in front of CTC, because I know I've been working or I've known of universities now who are scrubbing their websites of the words equity, whatever, funding, but there are other universities who, like that I've seen in the news, who are, actively saying, nope, we're gonna keep this, and we're gonna face whatever, so I feel, I mean, that's just me, but I feel like, that's something I'm all in, then I'm not trying to scrub any language. I'm trying to go head on.
We have 1 minute.
I'm trying to get your thoughts down on the slides. Just a reminder, these are, the next step is that everybody's going to have the chance to review these and add comments
slide.
on the slides. Yeah.
You haven't done that, Jason?
Oh.
I told you I can get your computer. I don't have my computer on me, and apparently it was not enough.
Well, no, you always do that. You've been doing it every meeting.
I know, I've been doing it at school.
I can pull it
as
up
well,
if you just
stepping back.
let me know what
So
I'm.
we can
what
get
I'm
those on
typing.
the slides for everybody to look at. And then you are going to get back in, well, you're going to mix up them. It'll be new groups,
Doing the same thing. What?
but using, because hopefully we have some,
Are we doing the same? We're not doing we're doing a different group.
you'll be in a different group and there will be hopefully revised and consolidated recommendations.
How do we go to the different group?
You choose the one.
We just choose a different.
You walk to a different room.
You can consolidate the
same thing?
CTC support.
Again, but with a different group.
Make it 2 first. The 2 bullet points can be combined, and
I like this group.
In our 1 minute.
We still have the CTC.
We haven't done CTCs.
Now that you've given Jim the computer.
It's easier just, okay.
So can we stay, is it possible to stay in the same group, just so we can do the second section that we're supposed to?
Keep working on it right now. We don't have to all go back yet because nobody's ready. But let's say,
See, and we only had 7, so I can't imagine the other people that had more than 7.
they've done some good consolidating, but so let's say 3:30 back in the main room.
15 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
What, wait,
So I'm really intrigued by the question you just asked, Shayna, and now I'm sitting here looking at this and doing this analysis and wondering, this is a really big question that I hadn't considered before, but we have to consider, I suppose, in the current climate. I'm not really sure what to do with that, but I think we might want to put a placeholder on that because I think we need to discuss it. But the second thing I wanted to sort of throw in, and I don't exactly know where or how, but maybe it's part of the fourth bullet point, is that at one point back in a couple of meetings ago, there was an element in the design of the exam that included some sort of flexibility component that could be adapted to programs. So, for instance, none of the current TPAs as they stand have something that programs can sort of design to be their own thing. But way back when we were designing PACT, we had what we called embedded signature assessments. They ultimately didn't make it in, but I think it might behoove us to somehow put some language in there that says, in whatever future iterations, there could be innovations that include the ability for programs to adapt or create their own. Maybe it's a formative experience that becomes graded with a common set of rubrics, whatever it is, but that there's some form of flexibility that is evaluated with integrity across programs.
Instead of a TPA?
No, as part of the TPA, that part of the TPA has an opportunity for programs to design some element that meets their needs or their specific things that they want to emphasize or address. And I'm not sure that's a good idea or not, but I'm just trying to think if there are.
I think it is a good idea, and I think that it's something that myself and Ira were talking about this morning when I was driving here. We've relaxed the passing standard with having an alternative which is 3 points lower. So is there an opportunity for us to also say that if a student, like this signature assignment or whatever we want to call it, can that actually bump a candidate up who's maybe only got 30 points in their EdTPA or whatever it is, and that the institution says, but we can replace the missing pieces here with this signature assignment or whatever it is, which gives it weight and takes away some of the anxiety maybe that some students have, that there is not just one alternative now, that we can look at all the TPEs that they've achieved, and if we all think that they're doing okay, then we can waive it if they're only 3 points below. But even lower than that, that someone who's struggled for whatever reason to meet the bar of a performance assessment, we have an internal assessment that we validated and are willing to substitute in and sign off on, as it were. I just wonder whether that's sort of worth thinking about.
I think it is. I think it's also worth thinking about the problem that a lot of programs have with the TPA just seems so big, and programs seem to be designing their whole programs around how do we fit this TPA into what we really want to do or what we're doing. That maybe there are parts of, say, for instance, things that candidates might do early in a program that's formative work that is not just formative work for the TPA, but actually becomes the TPA. And it's designed to support candidates in a particular part of their program or in particular communities in which they're working. I don't know exactly, but I'm just trying to see if there's some way. I don't know that the recommendation has to be terribly specific, but again, I think a lot of our recommendations can be suggestions, as Ira Litt's feedback was, that says, here's something to think about. This is what we recommend, the next design teams to think about in future iterations of the TPA, for instance.
So the sort of recommendation is to explore further things like aspects like that. That would be one of the recommendations, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think I think our recommendations can address problems that this
Nope.
Pros.
or there's problems where people don't think it's working for the context in which they're teaching, and so candidates are making up stuff.
Yep.
Maybe there could be a more flexible component to the exam itself that could address this. We don't know what that is, but we're recommending that maybe flexible. It could.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking as well. I think that's a really good idea.
Are we I'm gonna transition, and I'm just gonna throw out a proposal. I think, for me personally, I think I would only go with bullet number 2. I think 1 and 3 can be eliminated. And the reason I think that is because 1 and 2 are getting at the same thing, which is, for me, having some way to like understand the community of the CTC model sponsors. Bullet number 2 just does that more efficiently with less resources, I think. And it doesn't require people to come together. It requires the examples to go out to the programs. And then bullet number 3, in the feasibility, it says that a continuum of practice already exists that aligns the TPs to the CSTPs. So if that's already happening, it might just be finding that resource and making sure that everybody knows where that is.
Has it already been done?
Yes, it says right here, continuum of practice already exists that aligns the TPAs to the CSTPs.
It's not needed at all then, is it?
Well, I mean, it's a recommendation because someone felt that it wasn't.
Yeah.
So to say that it is, then it just needs to be highlighted, I guess. It's just not being done. Because I know I was part of the group that did recommendation 1, and the idea was that I felt LEAs are not, at least in my experience, the LEAs are not active participants in some of the teacher candidates. And especially, it was specifically for interns in special education. So it was really important to me that we understand the needs of our teacher candidates who are on internship credentials in their work that they do in special education, and not just like, oh, that's someone else's job, or that's teacher development, or that's not me. And they're in charge of the school. So yeah, so maybe 1 and 2 can maybe potentially be combined by saying these exemplary practices for embedding the TPA and prep programs be provided to LEAs and people that work with the candidates. Yeah, I agree. And that was the whole point of making that recommendation. I know it's not only time, it's also like, what are we going to get together? Like, I know my district's always like, it has to be free. Like, we have to find someplace in the district that's free. And it's like, there is no one to host 100 people, 120 people, however big our special ed team is. You have to pay. And so I totally get that. But I also know we have like other methods now. We have Zoom, we have other methods of gathering together that you don't have to travel to, or you don't have to take the day off, or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But that was the whole idea for me behind that, was just so that we had more people gathering. And I also wanted to say, one of the ideas thrown out was that teacher candidates are able to share. So like I know when I did my master's coursework, we did like a forum after. Like you did your research, you finished, you got your degree, and then you presented about what did you do, how did you do it, why did you do it. It was really meaningful because it kind of was an accumulation of like a final. And I feel like teacher candidates should have that opportunity. I do feel that we don't have enough teacher leaders, like, and that's like something they can like be proud of. Like you did the Cal TPA, you did the Ed TPA, you did a lot of work. Show me what you did, and I just think that helps build confidence as well in teachers. Like, okay, I do know what I'm doing. I do have that confidence to move forward. I thought it was hard, but I got the guidance, and I'm here now, finished.
With that bullet point one, do you not get invited to the things that the CTC puts on? Like,
Well, I'm a teacher, so yeah, I wouldn't, you know, like my role here is, I think, different than some of your roles here. But again, coming from the field, I don't see that often. Or it's like at certain times where, like I said, teachers can't go because they're teaching class.
Does the CTC organise stuff?
yeah, there's
I've never been.
there's coordinator meetings, there's the
The Cal TPA. The specific Cal TPA.
I know the Meredith Fellows thing
Okay.
is open, but you have regular coordinator meetings that I attend.
Yeah, and we have a TPA one once a month, basically, on Zoom.
But usually how it works is like the information gets pushed to certain people, higher people, but the people at the bottom, it's like you're relying on telephone, right? Like, oh, well, I heard this and I heard this. So by the time it comes down, if it comes down to the candidate, maybe it's not relevant, maybe that candidate couldn't get time off because there was no substitutes for them to take the time off to go to this event or to gain more knowledge. I think that's another one of my recommendations was getting paid time off to help to do the TPA, because a lot of teacher candidates are trying to figure out how to do it in between whatever they're doing. Like, so that was that for me. That was the point of that one, I believe.
Interns certainly should get the time off.
Yeah. And I believe there was a recommendation floating around somewhere, just like to create a whole work group for interns, but.
Yeah, like someone did mention that.
Pressure coming.
No, I wanted to quickly mention, if you haven't seen, if you have your slides open, we have a comment from another group on slides 9 and 10 from Ben Odell, pointing out potential redundancy from slide 50 from a different group. Slide 50 says the RDI and TPA work group recommends CTC develop and support a system of shared accountability between preparation programs, CTC and TPA model sponsors to address disproportionate TPA success rates. So that's for under CTC supports those the first two recommendations that he's just pointing out there.
That same
So that's
issue.
their-
So that would be
That's problem.
somewhere else.
There.
Write that in
One
there.
way.
That's right.
Ben's problem.
Okay.
That one is about accountability, right? Is that what,
I think so.
this is about information sharing? Is that correct? Am
I
I
think so, yeah.
noting the distinction?
Yeah, and the thing that I think is slightly different in here is like collect exemplary practices for embedding the TPA. Does that include like information about the TPA, or like is that just strictly about program stuff? Because I feel like there also maybe needs to be revision of those words if you're trying to combine bullet one, trying to get more information to candidates, LEA, everybody who is outside of the universities, or who are working coaches who may be working with the candidate in TPA. I don't necessarily know if embedding the TPA is relevant for.
I don't think it's just, I would take out the example. I mean, I think that exemplary practice would cover more than just embedding, because there's so many other things that people would want, which is why I liked some of the first bullet point. To convene a regular statewide with all of those different interest groups wouldn't make sense, in my view. they all need to know what's going on, but everyone who attended something like that would have different needs, and I'm not sure it should be one event, but I do think that there should be ways, cheap ways as well, through Zoom or whatever. It doesn't have to be that we all go to a hotel somewhere or whatever, people look at a conference centre. But I do think that the sharing and meeting one goes together somehow.
Yeah, but I think they said that that one is reflected in slide 50 or whatever.
Which one is in slide
That
50?
number one.
What did you guys decide?
Are we out of time?
About, yeah, the idea is
Well, are we're transitioning, okay?
transition. Are you ready to transition back to?
Drafting. There's still a draft on CTC supports for programs.
So we need to move to a different.
Let's go back to the main
The
room.
main room.
Somebody look at the,
Slides?
time to look at something. I'm ashamed.
Oh, you don't want me to?
Mentioned the UDL analysis, and so I need her to check the
Whatever.
grammar, how it's worded, what's being left out.
Whatever, Jason. Yeah, then.
Tell me that you were stuck in the car driving without telling me you were stuck in the car driving. And you're stuck, we didn't sit in the
Make
chair.
any changes. That was worded.
Oh.
Thank you, Tina.
Should we all go to the same group again?
I mean,
Which one we going to?
I was gonna
We
go to
probably
the
will.
second one.
Yeah, I was gonna go to the second
Let's
one
just-
too.
I mean,
I was doing I was just going in order.
What was
Yeah.
it?
Well,
I don't
one-
even remember what the second one was.
Little one,
I'm
two.
gonna go to the second
What's the
one.
second one?
No, this was
No,
the
the
first,
first one.
this was the first one.
You were trying to.
You're in the wrong group. You're in the wrong group all along.
I was going to both of them, and so I guess since we're going to each group,
20 minutes in each.
we're going to the main room now, right? I mean,
Is this a?
Oh,
Yeah.
Tina's looking at, Tina, revise the slides. No? It was worth a shot.
I can't see them actually, but.
A likely story.
Pull up that email.
Valid, but I feel like there's an actual
Yeah,
term.
multiple means of learning demonstration.
Are we talking about these in the big group, or we're just transitioning to?
We'll find out when we get there. I saw something about like independent reading.
We have your computer at all with you? I do. I was gonna see, because you can probably.
Is learning the right demonstration of what? Demonstration of candidates, demonstration of learning? That, oh, that's the way I feel is
It is
demonstration of.
Demonstration of
Practice?
Practice.
this.
There we go. I knew you was gonna come through, Tina.
My one word.
All right.
All it takes. Once
You
it's
can still
complete,
wordsmith it though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
we can give him his laptop back.
No.
we'll just switch. I'll just take the iPad.
We can't break her. That's thought, right? It'll be like a brain.
Well, you asked me to do this. You asked me to do this.
I know, but I didn't know that you had OCD.
You know what?
Well,
Thank you so much. We'll give you your.
you can bring it back whenever.
Okay.
He's almost there.
It access denied me.
Oh,
So I guess I can't do anything.
What do you mean access?
I don't know.
We learned.
It's telling me to stop. So I'm gonna stop.
She's making us come back to the main thing.
Yeah, probably. Like, can you please stop?
Probably cut off editor
Yeah, I
access.
think, that's
It's
the Juliet thing.
Forced.
She's telling us
compliance.
he's taking too long. I'm the bad student today. What are we?
I think now we're doing the same thing, the same process over again,
But-
where we're consolidating, combining
right? Am I?
We're all in that same place.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think you're
Yeah,
right,
okay.
but I guess my, I don't know, I feel like, I don't know, I mean, well, number one, we really do need those comments, though. If we're gonna do this again, especially at this
Agreed.
stage, I don't see how I can.
We have them.
The comments are here.
Oh, they're there?
There, yeah, she didn't change it, so she didn't make a copy.
You're talking about the comments we just made or comments from
Yeah,
the
no, the
committee?
ones we just
No,
made.
they're there.
Oh, they're here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rebecca,
Just
do
use
you
the
understand?
slide, there's slide deck or just.
Yeah, she said
Yeah.
that she sent us a
then
different
it
slide
didn't
deck and that didn't include the comments. She just,
Well, I didn't even.
Right, so, and then she said, just use the old.
oh yeah, here it is. Oh, yeah, I see
The
it.
message.
Here's the link to the slideshow, yeah.
We just use the old
Oh,
one.
we used the one that we were just on. We have everything.
There we go.
And, she said she rearranged some of the slides, but I don't think we should. worry
Comments
about
are
that.
more important.
Yeah,
than-
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I called the Tokyo place to see what their hours were.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just did the same thing.
Oh, okay.
And what'd they say?
They said they're open till 9:30, but they said that if you don't get there by 7, your seat, you may not be able to get a seat because apparently it's pretty. And then we may not have, I love that idea to go there, but if we can't, because we're only out here at 5. Well, we leave here at 5.
If we leave here at 5, we just drop off our, check in and drop off our suitcase and head over.
Yeah, and it's close enough. We could probably get there by 6:15.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
I
That way.
think so.
And if it doesn't work, then we'll just go to the other place, the Mayahuel or wherever
Okay.
else. But I love Japanese.
I do
food.
too. Yeah.
Where are you going?
We're the Tokyo.
You-
They do have.
Just want to say, do we want to tell everybody?
Eventually, yeah.
No, I mean like the public.
Oh.
Beckley Keene and YouTube recording.
No,
No, maybe not.
All these people are going to be at this location at 6:00.
Tonight I'm going to Fox and Goose.
Awesome.
I have a
I love Fox and
previous
Goose.
commitment.
And I've been craving that. They have the best fish and chips I've ever had.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was thinking of you when I got off the plane this morning because they closed.
Why?
Oh, did you see that? I was so.
I am so disgusted.
That's our airport.
Yeah.
No, I go to the lounge there because I have a.
Yeah, I used to go there too all the time, but lately I haven't been here in the airport long enough to
Their
just.
wine's not as good, but it's free.
Yeah, that part. That part. Well, now that my other spot is closed, I may end up there yet again.
Okay, so we're in purple and the first one has 2 recommendations and the second has 3, and then that's it, right? Okay,
Yeah.
easy one.
Yeah, I don't think there's that many left. I mean,
Well, the second slide 9 seems like that's work to do.
Great executive order today targeting higher education accreditation standard.
Fun.
good times.
I don't know why you do that to yourself.
That part.
I gave up a long time.
That part.
I needed to.
Making sure you know that if you refresh, you
No,
can actually.
I know.
Yes.
Why did I click on this?
Yeah.
As far as you can and be back in the other room at 4:50. 50.
Or 450, okay, and
Okay.
and we're
I missed out. What's 450?
Back in the room, just as far as you can by 4:50.
and we're doing the same process.
Doing the same process.
consolidating,
Yep.
Changing if we need and
Yep.
eliminating, okay.
And then using feedback that might be on the slides.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
One question I wondered, I'm looking at slide 8. And the main bullet, it says the TPAs be centered around culturally responsive / sustaining and equity focused pedagogy. I was wondering if they strategically chose the word and there to include both of those ideas, or if they if that was intentional or not.
It wasn't part of this.
I don't know.
Because they aren't necessarily one and the same.
I have a question though about this. Isn't this something that's included in the TPAs?
I was reading it. I don't think it's explicit in saying culturally responsive and or equity focused. But it feels like it should be, right? I don't know.
It's not overt in the rubrics anyway.
No?
They, I can only speak to Ed TPA. That's the TPA that my program uses. And there are hints of it, and there are questions sort of getting at that in the commentary, but it's not clear that it's saying, tell me about how your instruction or your lessons or whatever is culturally relevant or sustaining or responsive to students' cultural backgrounds, or how is it centering equity. So
I think
it could be more obvious.
I don't know if it is. I was impressed with, Tori's not here. She was the one who, she came specifically here because she wanted that to happen.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know if she included the word and? Oh, you don't have it open in front of you, Ursula, for a reason. Which was,
I feel like though, well, because I'm on the group that's doing the design of the new one, and I'm like, I feel like we put that in there somewhere.
of the new.
Cal TPA.
Oh,
That, you
but
know,
it wouldn't be required of all TPA program sponsors.
That's according to what he's saying.
yeah, yeah, because that's true, because the Ed TPA does not explicitly call it out, because we transitioned from Ed TPA to Cal TPA in the middle of that transition.
So then
Good
keeping
times.
this would be
It's
relevant.
good, yeah, it's relevant.
The question on the top says how, thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you.
Ensure protections. I like that the words diversity and inclusion are not included in here.
There, that part.
Because
But I think that's a bigger question.
I
I
agree.
think it's a bigger I mean, I think we're just here dealing with this right now. But you know, what we're telling our people is until we hear differently from the.
Right. Well, I'm just saying in the language that we have so far, I think it's good.
To the question up top here in red, would districts somehow be put at risk for hosting student teachers who are required to complete a TPA that has this language on it?
Well, Trump's already fighting with the university.
Yeah,
So.
so far,
California.
so far, the state of California is saying, no, we're not following these mandates because they are not in law. All they are is threats. But there are some California districts in very red areas who are already saying, oh, yes,
Yeah, we're out
sir,
here.
we're complying.
Yeah,
We're,
we're out of here.
you know, so we'll do whatever you want. But
Yeah.
California as a state and our Secretary of Education has said, no, we're not complying. This is not enforceable by law.
I wonder, I mean, I wonder if it could be a liability to the district because it's not requiring that we're teaching these things to kids. It's requiring that on the back end, we're planning with it in mind. So I wonder if districts and universities the districts anyway, would be protected from scrutiny in that way, because it's not about teaching the kids a curriculum that's designed that way, but just in my design of my lesson, I'm mindful of these things. Does that make sense?
I want to cry having
I
this
know.
conversation.
I was just going to say, it sickens me to think that we are trying to figure out how to protect the concept of diversity and equity.
And I don't think that's our role to do that here. Our role
Yeah.
is to make this recommendation,
Yeah.
whatever we feel it needs
And,
to.
and I can see trying to avoid things that make districts or the state or whatever more of a target. But I also want to say we should not comply to things that are not regulation or law. We should not capitulate to threat and, you know,
Not to
it
mention.
sickens me. It's like, where are we?
But yeah,
Well,
I think you're right, Ursula. We should make this the way we want it to be.
Mhm.
And the rest of it we'll have to flesh out as
Right.
things
And
do
then,
whatever
and
they
if
do.
the state decides that they're gonna capitulate and that
That's-
they're gonna remove language or whatever,
Yeah,
then they do what they do.
right.
But we
But
should
we
just
should
do
do
what we
what's
think is
right.
Right. Yeah. Ugh.
But those like key terms, I think, are good that they're not in here. Just, I like the recommendation, this one as it is. I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but I think,
On page 9.
slide 8.
Yeah, there weren't any
There
comments.
weren't
There's
any-
no comments.
I like the way
Yeah, it's fine.
how it's rewritten. I didn't look at the original.
There it is.
I'm
Yeah,
comfortable going to the next one.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's move on to 9, which is UDO.
So this one does have a bunch of comments.
so is our job now to consider the comments and incorporate them?
So
I
think
think
so.
a little bit of a thought.
I think
The
we're
fact
supposed
that you all said yes means you all got it and I didn't, so, sorry.
I think we're supposed to try and consolidate this, but like the comments can kind of help guide, because like, somebody might, like, I think I put in my comments, I think this could be with others' recommendation or something like that.
Yeah.
Do we want to, let's look. So Mandy asked about asset-based, like including that it's an asset-based rubric. To the bullet point 2. Oh, so just right here where it says rubric, that we'd say asset-based rubric.
But and so now I think that's combining different recommendations together, which is fine.
Mhm.
I don't know if these are supposed to stand alone. I think that asset-based things goes to another recommendation.
And she cited slide 14 and said maybe we delete it out of 14 if we add asset-based here. Oh, but the slides are out of order.
I wonder, does it make sense to just add one specific descriptor or component of a rubric
Mm-hmm.
without sort of all of the specifications you'd want about a rubric?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Should we look at?
Just mark it resolved.
There you go. That works.
Done.
I like it,
I was
finished.
going down.
You say,
Done. Over.
To Jason's Jason's comment down at the bottom. If you, scroll, he's got a good one.
Jason's always long.
I think we resolve this one by saying, refer this to Jason.
That part.
He's got a lot of very specific and good things. And I'm not sure how you,
I mean, this would necessitate a restructuring of the ed TPA.
well, that kind of, if you scroll a little bit further, Rebecca, you get to my
Redesign.
compared to Jason's very articulate one, but that
Oh, there we go.
when you have recommendations such as reducing number of pages or varying submissions, whatever, you have to basically redesign the assessment in terms of its validity and reliability. If you're changing its components,
That part.
you can't just say, okay, there's going to be 3 pages instead of 8. It changes everything. And so you have to look at how does that affect fairness? How does it affect, I mean, so some of these recommendations, I don't know specifically if the feasibility addressed that or not, but it would be so much bigger. That I don't know.
Why? There's currently there's a maximum for TPA, so there's not a minimum though, right? What are we reducing?
There's a minimum,
There is?
isn't it? Like a. Oh, no, there's only a maximum page.
So I guess I'm just wondering the thinking behind reducing the number of pages, or what pages are we reducing? maybe?
Right. So, Rebecca, could you scroll back up to the recommendation where it says about reducing pages? Where is that?
Right there.
Streamline the TPA exam structure by reducing the number of pages submitted.
So
Maybe we just.
Does that mean like lower the maximum?
I don't think that they understand that they're.
I don't know what that
I know
means.
what that means.
Nor do I, so I would
Confused on
delete
that
it
one.
if I don't understand what it means.
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges that the comments were saying was the writing piece aspect of it and the redundancy of the writing. You're writing the same thing in 4 different ways on one document.
You know, if we look at what this recommendation is, it's basically that they do a UDL analysis.
Mhm.
And then all of those bullets are just things they should consider in this analysis.
And so I like the idea of keeping it broad
Mhm.
and letting the commission put that level of detail if they feel it's
So,
necessary.
so what if you were to get rid of all of the bullets, but up at the stem you put to include essential design elements or, whatever, like, and just leave it broad so that,
I like that.
I don't know, maybe that's overly simplistic, but
Should we go for that though?
yes, because that's what they're gonna do with all these recommendations. They're gonna take what we say and then they're gonna
They're
do
gonna
it.
do what they
Most,
want
and
anyway.
most of the recommendations are broad for that reason.
Yeah.
Well, I just think that that's too broad for the UD. I don't know. I feel like that could be just washed away really easily. But then it also, to UDL, the assessment is going to take an entire overhaul.
Right.
It would take a revamping of it
Mhm.
for the reasons that Beverly mentioned, so that they can run a pilot test, determine the reliability and validity of it and all
Yeah.
that.
And Stephen Collins' comment, I think, was specific to the reducing number of pages. He says it could be a measure of students' ability to write concisely.
Yeah. I think that part is definitely unclear. I what?
These telemarketers, man, they're like.
All the time.
Well, what do you all think? What do you want to do with all that?
I think this is a very heavy recommendation that is
Yeah.
going to require a lot of planning and resources that I'm not sure
I don't know about
Yeah.
this one.
would be
Okay,
helpful
well-
to the assessment design itself.
What all those bullets did for me is it made me lose what's the recommendation in itself. The recommendation is to do the UDL analysis.
Of the, okay, but for the candidate to do the
No, the
sponsors to do
It
it.
says there, TPA
To,
sponsors
to
do that.
redesign the
Well,
assessment structure.
okay, well, again, yeah, I don't know. This one's a bit much. I mean, it's in terms of, I mean, both in the redesign of the TPA, the Cal TPA specifically, they do account for UDL, but the Ed TPA, I'm not in on them. I'm assuming they're doing something similar. But I don't know to what extent it's being done.
And I think what we heard from him is it's not in the Ed TPA.
Not currently, but the Ed TPA is doing the same thing that the Cal TPA is doing because they have to put in those new standards. So they're doing the same thing. So yeah.
I'm wondering, I mean, if you really look at the guts of this one, it's basically saying that all the assessments have to be redone.
Yeah,
Do UDL analysis
Yeah, that
in
part.
order to restructure it and, do.
I feel like this is a separate committee.
That's a whole nother thing.
Because it will take a lot more recommendations and research.
Yeah,
Actually.
because you're telling the sponsors to actually revamp the TPA,
Right.
which to an extent, again, it's already happening. So,
Trying to see if I can find the feasibility of this one if they said.
Could
Well,
we-
Looking at what the commission is.
could we
Yeah,
combine-
no, the feasibility study.
could
But I
we-
don't know where.
I was gonna say combine 9 and 8, but
Slide
maybe
9 and slide 8.
slide 9 and slide 8, but they're two different things.
different
Yeah,
things.
it's UDLing the assessment and UDLing for lesson planning. That would be different. I think this would be a recommendation for a new work group to adjust the TPA.
Which I think, I mean, that has been, I think, an issue for us that we've wrestled with along, like, is our job to redesign? And we are reviewing the design and implementation. So I think, I don't think it's harmful to leave a broad recommendation that calls out the need to explicitly include universal design, especially given that we know they're already redesigning. It's almost like from a moral perspective, I don't want to take this out because I just want to say, like, this is important. None of us can do it, but we're just going to recommend that everybody knows we're not going to review the design and not call out the fact that accessibility needs to be analyzed and addressed.
Can't find the specific recommendation in the feasibility page, but the ones that are like it, or similar to it about redesign, streamlining the structure, the feasibility says it would require a revision of the performance assessment design standards and adoption by the commission, revision and approval of each model sponsor's TPA. Like every recommendation that says, oh, here's this recommendation. It says implementation would require revision of the performance assessment design standard and adoption by the commission, revision and approval of each model sponsor's TPA. So basically, they'd have to start over creating TPAs.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's a pretty big
That's
feasibility. I mean, doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means it's a big one.
It's huge because again, we're already doing exactly this. That's the thing.
So
We're
maybe
already
the fact
doing
that
it.
it's already being done, it's kind of like we said, okay, this one applies to the interim action. This one applies to that. If Kathy's saying that work is already happening, then I don't know if we need it.
Well, we're already in the process of redesigning, and yes, we are considering, doing with UDL in mind. But again, that's just one assessment. That's, the Ed TPA, I'm sure they're doing something similar, but I don't know what specifically they're doing. But what I'm saying is, if they're redesigning the TPA currently, by the time this gets out and they're going to be done with their revamp, and they are not going to be going right back in to do it again.
Right.
That's not going to happen. It won't.
What can we do for you?
I'm just checking it.
Good.
We're messing with this one, Juliet, because when we take away all of the bullets and we look at just the heart of it, it basically says all of the assessments have to be scrapped and redesigned. Because that's sort of what it says. It says they have to do an analysis in order to redesign them.
And the redesign process is already.
We're already doing it. We're in what, pilot or whatever?
But that's for the LPA and
But it's the Cal TPA, so it's the second cycle of the TPA. So that, again, that's being done. And then I know that Ed TPA is engaging in similar work for them because of the same kind of thing. So I'm saying by the time this gets done or we rate this recommendation, they'll have already gone through that. And so I'm saying that's not going to happen.
I think actually it is.
Well,
Feasibility implication says the commission would have to revise and adopt new performance assessment standards.
yeah, yep,
And
that part.
But I think that's kind of anticipated based
Well,
on
I don't think it
based on the charge of the work group.
Oh, that's, I don't know. But
So
I guess again, these are recommendations, right? So maybe if we leave it in, because if it's something that we think is, really, really important, and we just leave it in there and then let the chips kind of fall where they may in terms of how it, because timing's going to be important, obviously. And again, what's true for one TPA may not be true for the other. So, if they revise the standards or whatever, then everybody's gonna have to play ball,
What were you trying to say, Jim?
you know?
I was just wondering, I don't know if this gets to the reliability or validity issue. It seems like, and on the one hand, some of these bullets, sub-bullets are just trying to make the instructions and directions more accessible. So rather than have them all be in separate documents, one, I can't read it anymore, but I think one of them was about like linking things or having things embedded, which I don't know if that would require a whole redo of a TPA. And some of them actually are calling for maybe something that is more along the lines of what we were talking about. So I guess I'm wondering if we tease these apart a little bit, could we have one that is really just about trying to make the instructions and directions more accessible to candidates so they know what they're being asked to do, and another one might be employing UDL practices for the actual assessment itself, which would involve a whole lot more.
I think you're right, especially that embedding the live links is very different than a whole analysis of the. It's sort of like that one doesn't belong on this list.
Yeah.
The same thing about allowing coursework to be utilized as part of submission. Both of those don't really seem like they belong in a re-examination of the whole.
So maybe we split these apart.
Yeah, highlight at least those two bullets and
Yeah.
say these.
Sorry, that gives you a whole new slide.
So much for consolidating.
But we're also, focused.
Friends.
Yeah, 2 minutes. That's what I was really gonna say.
Okay, all right, well,
So the work group recommends that the TPA sponsors.
I would just a
Are
quick,
you starting a new slide?
I would just a quick and dirty, just copy,
Are you on it, Rebecca?
copy the slide. And then on one slide, don't delete, but strike through some of the bullets, and on the other one, strike through the other ones. Makes sense.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that makes sense.
And then we'll have to maybe play with the language up top here. So one of them, one slide is for the first bullet. I think one of them is for assessment structure, and then the other one is candidate demonstration of practice, maybe. And so the lower hanging fruit might just be the structure. So consolidate a lot of the various documents so that candidates hopefully have more access to.
Equitable access. Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I'm freezing.
Why my hands are cold?
Rebecca, did you get that? You're gonna look like you're on it.
I just made a note. So like if we say this one slide, we're going to focus on assessment structure for equitable access. And then if that's our focus, what do we strike through on here?
Those two about the live links and about the last one, I think are the ones that
Yeah. And I think
one of these things is not like the other. Yeah. I think.
strike through candidate demonstration of practice, because that'll be on the other one.
Are you doing it, Vanessa?
No, I started to, but I will.
Yeah, do it.
Ursula and I purposely didn't bring our laptops.
You're trying.
Takes one to know one here.
Can I just delete the number of pages one, since we already have the original down at the bottom with that in there?
Sure. We're also, sure.
Yeah.
Take it out.
Sorry, the assessment structure will be expanding flexibility for instructional styles, expand and ensure opportunities for multiple modalities. Okay. And then the first one was, wait, were there any other strike throughs for this one? I don't think so. For the assessment structure. So.
Were we moving the coursework one to the other one?
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Forget about this. And then the next one is where it would be more involved for redesigning the actual assessment, right?
Yeah.
Right, and this has all the same issues, so.
Oh, no, if I take it out, if I delete that comment, if I delete the number of pages thing, the comment comes out for it. Deletes also, so I'm gonna go back and take. Well, what would be the candidate description of demonstration of practice? Would that just be expand and ensure opportunities? The last 3 bullet points? And the first 3 bullet points are assessment structure?
I'm sorry, Vanessa, I didn't follow.
Sorry.
No, I
The
just,
first 3
I was
bullet
listening, but it
points,
didn't.
Are assessment structure, and the last 3 bullet points are candidate demonstration. Is that?
Oh, yeah. I guess so.
Is that what you're looking for?
Sorry,
Is that what you're trying to get at? So that's what I was thinking. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The last.
Devin, sorry, what?
Distracted.
Well, it's hard. It's hard to focus on.
Yes, you're good. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank God for these focus people.
I had my.
Are you anonymous walrus?
No, I think she's anteater.
Or is that Rebecca?
No, I'm walrus.
Okay.
She's walrus. Do I show up as an anteater?
Yeah, you're anteater.
No, I think we have to go back then.
Yeah, we do.
Well, we're not done.
Well, she said as far as we got.
Oh,
She said-
okay.
Yeah.
As far as you can get.
We like that.
So we got far.
We got.
Ish.
Ish.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Uh-huh. See you in a minute.
Rebecca.
The other side.
Yeah.